Good morning, viewers. Welcome to this session on problem solving and programming. That is your first course in MCA and PGDCA, and second course in second semester of BCA. Even some parts of this particular introduction to C programming is in our certificate in computing also. So this particular session will be helpful for all our four programs, that is CIP, BCA, PGDCA and MCA. I am Professor V.B. Subramaniam, Director, School of Computer Information Sciences, welcomes you to this particular session. So in this particular session, I have set the agenda to cover all the four units of Block 1. So be attentive. I had already forwarded you the PowerPoint presentation today morning through Twitter, through Facebook, through email, etc. So please try to follow the session very carefully, because this particular introduction to C programming is very important course throughout your career. So that is why I had selected the topic, this introduction to C programming, as the second topic. So let us move on to the actual session. Let us start with a quote by Alan Saporta. That is, the best way to escape from a problem is to solve it. So currently we are doing that only. So the best way to escape from a problem is not to escape to solve it, but to solve the problem and go ahead with the available solutions. Then in this particular thing, knowledge in any programming language is prerequisite to the study of most of the computer science courses. So if you are a student of computer science, you have to have a very good command in one or many programming languages. So learning a programming language is must. It is a prerequisite for any computer science student. So the programming language is the principal interface with the computer. Whatever you are interfacing, like the system itself is a dummy box. So the operating system provides you the environment, but the programming languages, tools and other IDEs provides you the kind of applications that we want to design to solve the problems, that is the real-time problems. So understanding a variety of programming languages and the design trade-offs between the different programming paradigms. So there are, you had seen in your first course itself, that there are several paradigms like the procedural programming, the object-oriented programming, etc. So understanding a particular programming language and then having a command and familiarity with that particular language helps you in learning the other languages also. Like for example, I want to connect this particular thing with a simple example, learning a new language. Suppose if you are very much familiar with your mother tongue, you have the other things like you will be learning right from the alphabets. Then you will be learning the words, then sentences, then grammar, then a paragraph, a lesson. Likewise, progressively you will be going on ahead to learn the language. That too, if you want to learn a new language, you know your mother tongue, and if you want to learn the new language, what you will be doing? Most of the times we will be see the trade-off. We will be seeing comparison between the language that I already know and the new language. In this, these are the set of alphabets. So in the other programming language, in the new programming language, what is the actual set? What are the components? How the syntax and the semantics works? What kind of syntax we have to follow for the decision statements or looping constructs? Likewise, the comparison kind of thing will be going on in your mind, and then you will be learning the programming. You will be learning the language itself. So once you are familiar with the language, the other languages are very easy to learn. So problem solving and programming, in your book, we had followed 3 steps. That is writing the algorithm, then drawing the flowchart for the corresponding algorithm, and then writing a program to solve the problem using the programming language. So let us focus on what exactly is the algorithm. So algorithm is a finite set of steps defining the solution of a particular problem. An algorithm is nothing but a pseudocode. So whatever you write in the type of a kind of English-like statements itself is an algorithm. Like suppose if you want to go purchase three different items in this period, in this crisis, and then return back to your home. So you will be framing in your mind a kind of stepwise procedure, a finite stepwise procedure, wherein which you will start at home, go to first place, second place, third place, and then you in your mind the route is also very much essential. The shortest part or whatever the thing that you are making in the way, the route that you are following, that is also very much essential. So you'll be following a particular path, you'll be following a particular procedure, way or steps. You'll be reaching to the first, second, third destination. You'll be picking up the things, and then you'll be following a same path or else a different kind of route in order to reach your home. So if you document these particular steps in a sequential fashion, so that is nothing but a kind of algorithm. Let us see one simple example that is given over here on the slide. To develop an algorithm to compute and display the sum of two numbers. So here the user wants to take two numbers, he wants to add, and then he wants to display the value. So the simple steps are: you are starting, read two numbers A and B, calculate the sum of A and B, and store it in the sum, SUM, a simple variable, then display the value of sum. Stop. This is the way to write the algorithm. And one more thing is there any hard and fast that we have to use only these words? No. Start and stop, you know, you are starting the algorithm, this is the start step, and then you are moving ahead with the sequential steps, and then your stop, the program has been terminated. So read two numbers A and B. Is it mandatory to write only read two numbers A and B? No. You write input two numbers A and B, find the sum. Likewise, whatever the English like language, in order to understand the problem solving technique in the form of a sequential execution of the steps is called as a algorithm. Next, once again, we will see the second example here. Algorithm to calculate the factorial of a given number. So here we are first step is start, read the number n. That is whatever the factorial number we have, factorial for the number we have to calculate, that number we are taking, initialization we are doing, and then we have to repeat certain steps. Like one, suppose if you are taking the number 4, then you have to multiply 1 into 2 into 3 into 4. So for that particular repetition, we are following repeat steps 4 through 6 until I is equal to n. Whenever it equals, then the thing will terminate and the program will print the factorial and stop execution. So this is the way that one can represent the solution in the form of English-like language in a finite steps. So let us continue with the program. Before that, I hope you understood the topic of algorithm. Please try to attempt these four questions. Write algorithms for the following simple programs: to find the largest among the three numbers given, to find the sum and average of any given 10 integers, to check whether the given number is prime or not, and to check whether the given number is odd or even. So you write finite sequence of steps in order to write the algorithms properly. Then coming to the second step, that is the flowchart. So we had already designed the algorithm in order to solve the problem. There we had seen the approach also. There we had identified the approach to solve the problem. So next step is nothing but whatever the flow that we had thought in our mind. If we are able to graphically represent that particular thing, that particular algorithm is called as a flowchart. So whenever we draw the graphical representation of the flowchart, So there are certain symbols. So there we have seen start, stop in order to start the algorithm and or else program and stop. So both the things requires a kind of symbol. And then input is there. So for inputs, wherever the user is trying to take the inputs from the people, so the inputs are very much essential for the program. The data is very much essential, the raw data. Then the process. So in order to represent only one particular symbol is not sufficient. So we have to have certain symbols in order to show that it is a start step, it is a start step, and in between some inputs, process, decisions, and then some connectors to the statements. These are required. So there are certain symbols identified, and these are the group of symbols that we have to use. That is, for start and stop, a kind of vowel is used. Like process, you can see here rectangle is being used for the process. Whenever you want to take if I greater than n or not. So for such kind of decisions, so a kind of diamond is being used in order to connect the steps. We have the connector symbol, and then there in order to put the input and output, we have a kind of parallelogram symbol, and then for the predefined process, there is a kind of symbol available. So only limited set of symbols are available here. Like 6 symbols are available here. So within these 6 symbols, and then the arrow mark, the flow is the direction is very much important in order to connect. Let us see the same example once again. Whatever the algorithm that we had written, the two or for those two algorithms, let us draw the flow chart. So this is a kind of flow chart for the sum of two numbers. You can see here start symbol, a kind of vowel, then read A comma B. So here input. So for input we are using the parallelogram. Then sum A plus B. We are finding the sum, and then we are finding A plus B and storing it in the sum, and then we are printing. For you can see here input, and for output we are using the parallelograms. For process, that is sum is equal to A plus B, we are using the rectangle, and then starts and stop symbols are similar. This is the second. The slide is not pretty clear in this particular session. However, I have given you the PowerPoint presentation. Please see and follow for the factorial also. You can see simple decision is also being included in the factorial. Whether to find the same number is, like we have reached till that number or not, in order to terminate the iteration. So we have the decision box also. So you can follow it from the slide that I have followed. Then whatever the problems you had designed the algorithm, the 4 problems, once again I had given you as a check your progress part 2. Like draw flowcharts for the following simple problems. There you had drawn already the there you had designed the algorithms in order to find the largest among the 3 numbers given. So you try to draw the flowchart for the 4 given problems. So the third step is to represent whatever the algorithm that we had written, whatever the flow chart that we had graphically represented using any programming language with the help of a program. We will be writing the necessary steps to write and solve the problem. So in practice, it is necessary to express an algorithm using some programming language to instruct the computer to solve the problem. So if using this particular program, there are several programming languages which are there. Like in the earlier class, we had tried to learn the Java programming language. Likewise, Fortran was there, C, COBOL, like Pascal. Those were earlier programming languages. Currently, there are several programming languages that are there. So, using one of those programming languages, the third step is being met. Like program, you can define it as a sequence of instructions written in any programming language to solve the problem using a computer. So this is the definition for a program. So it is nothing but a sequence of instruction written like in a meticulous way. where in which you have to follow the syntax, you have to follow the semantics, you have to follow the flow, everything. So and you have to follow wherever there are certain kind of terminators to be incorporated, you have to incorporate the statement terminators, etc. So this is a kind of sequence of instructions need to be given to the system in order to solve the problem. So next comes the categories of programming languages. So in the categories of programming languages, you can categorize them into two different programming categories. One is the low level language, or else you can call them as machine oriented programming languages. Or else the second thing is high level languages or problem oriented programming languages. So what exactly are the low level and high level? Where lies the difference? Let us see. Low level programming languages are nothing but whose design is governed by the circuitry, that is the hardware and the structure of the machine. It is very difficult to learn. In the earlier session, MCS 012, Akshay Kumar was talking about the assembly language programming along with the computer organization, because we are interacting with the directly the hardware. So here in the low level, that is the machine oriented, means whenever we are talking about the machine oriented programming languages, it talks about zeros and one. Everything whatever we have to represent in the form of group of zeros and ones. It is very difficult to learn. And remembering those particular combinations is next to impossible. So these are designed to give a better machine efficiency. So the total focus of the low level programming languages is on the machine efficiency and not on the problem solving. So faster programming execution will happen because you are directly dealing with the RLs, you are writing the programs directly with the computer known language, that is zeros and ones. So it is faster in program execution. And this particular programming using the low level language is machine dependent. So each and every characteristics of the machine you have to keep in mind, and then depending upon the machine characteristics and the instruction set, we have to write the programs. Once you write the program for this particular machine, keeping in mind that may not be executed in the other machine. So completely these languages are machine dependent languages. Whether we are writing it for 32-bit, whether we are writing it for 64-bit, or whether we are writing using the system where in which it has 8080 processor or 8086 processor or else Pentium 5 processor, whatever. So whenever you are talking about the low level languages, so there this particular machine dependency comes into picture. So for examples, we can quote machine language itself and then assembly language as the examples for the low level languages. And let us come to the high level languages. So these are oriented towards describing the procedures for solving the problem. So here you can understand that these particular high level languages are trying to focus on the problem solving, their machine efficiency. Here, the complete thing is the complete steps, whatever we try to write in the form of a program, it is describing the procedures in order to solve the problems. So these are machine independent, easy to learn, machine directly cannot understand them. So there should be some sort of interpreters, a kind of compiler or else interpreter. So some languages you have compilers designed for in order to translate the whole high level language into the machine level language, and then for some they use the compilers wherein which once again the same thing happens, but in the compilers the whole program is being converted into the machine language, but in the interpreter it go line by line, that you already aware of. So machine directly cannot understand them, these particular high level languages, as we are saying they use certain intermediate things wherein which the conversion is required for them. For examples, Fortran, Pascal, C, C++. So all these things comes under the high level languages. So you can see here, see we are quoting an example for the high level language. Is it really high level language? Let us see. So this particular C programming language is developed at AT&T Bell Laboratories in 1970s. Designed by Dennis Ritchie. So this particular history, the complete history of the deriving of the C programming language is already given in your MCS 011 block 1. So please go through the history, how, what is actually the, what exactly was in the mind, and how it took so many years to come to a particular set of programming language statements and other things. So this particular history, you try to learn it from the block 1. So coming to the salient features of C, general purpose language. This is a general purpose high level language, and it follows structured programming language approach. It has considered as a high language. However, it combines both the features. It can be features of high level as well as some sort of low level language features also. So it is a kind of mix. So wherever and whenever we want to design certain programs like a compiler design, we look into the language wherein which it supports the high level as well as the low level programming, because it has to have interact with the system also, and it should be very much easy, pretty easy in order to write the program for us. So both the things go hand in hand. So in that particular context, we have to have a kind of features wherein which it can be pitched at the middle level. So C can be taken as middle level language. So you can write high level language programming. You can do it as well as in order to interact with the circuitry or else the hardware of the system. There also you can use the C. Whenever we talk about the applications, there you can find the application part of the C language as the middle level language. Then the other salient feature is portable, easy to debug, and easy to test and maintain. So these are the salient features. So most of the students or most of the people, they are in a myth. What is the myth? That C is outdated. C is no more outdated programming language, because we will see in the next slide wherein the applications whatever the C is used, from that you can understand that C is no more, or else the myth whatever that you have in your mind that it is a outdated language will goes off from your mind. So various real world applications, let us see. Development of operating systems like Windows and Linux. So in order to develop the operating systems itself, the C programming is being used. In order to design the graphical user interfaces for many of the applications or many of the packages that we are seeing today, they are programmed using C. Then integrated develop environments like Visual Basic and other kind of environments that we are seeing. So those particular IDEs, in IDEs what we do? Directly drag and drop kind of things. In order to include some command button, already it is available in the toolbox. Directly from the IDE, that is from the toolbox, we drag drop onto the like front end application or else form. So those kind of IDEs are also used, are designed using the C programming. Then comes the latest, that is the embedded systems. So in the embedded systems, the scripting applications and then the drivers, in order to interact with various devices, those drivers are required. Suppose if you are putting some pen drive, and this for that in that machine, if you are putting the pen drive for the first time, what it happens? It directly don't identify. First of all, the driver will be loaded, then only it identifies the piece of that particular pen drive. So drivers plays an important role. That, like a simple software, in order to, whenever you are plugged and playing, the driver software is being first of all loaded, then only you can work with that device. So in order to build those kinds of drivers, or else in order to write the scripting applications for the embedded systems, you have to have the language which can be pitched in the in between the high and low. So embedded systems, we are using the C programming in order to write the scripting applications and the device drivers. Then comes the new programming platforms like MATLAB. It is developed using the C program. Mathematica is another application which is purely written in C and C++. Like Google File System and Google Chrome browser, whatever we are using, very craze, like very popular browser. The Google Chrome browser is also developed using C and C++. Then Mozilla Firefox, Thunderbird, then MySQL, open source RDBMS software that was also written in C and C++. Compiler designs, gaming, animation, so all these there are ample number of examples that we can give. Even product wise also we can give. You please identify what are the products using C and C++ and take it as a check your progress apart from whatever we are discussing over here. And now let us see the structure of the program. So whenever we are talking about the programming language, the program consists of a particular structure. So here we are using a top-down approach. Top-down means here we are using the main program, we are writing it on the top, and then the necessary user-defined functions and other things, we are writing it in the down. So what are the essential things in order to structurize the C program? First of all, comments can be written using a forward slash followed by a star. Then you can write the comment, whatever this particular program is meant for you, finding the solution of solves. Or else a heading kind of thing, or else a labeling kind of thing. Or else suppose if you want to write the comments inside the program also, you have to follow the same format, like forward slash followed by star, then write the comments, end with the star, and then once again forward slash. So in between whatever you write between the forward slash and the star, those are considered as the comments, and those don't take by the compiler when it is compiling the program and transferring it into the machine code. Then comes the preprocessor directives. So these preprocessor directives like hash include stdio.h, standard input header files. So all these particular header files and other things comes as the preprocessor directives, like the macros that we talked about. So those also comes under the preprocessor directives. Then global data declarations. So whatever the data that too meant for several programs, the global data that we have to declare it to the main function. Then main. So each and every C program we call it as a main function. So call it as a C program or else call it as a main function. So here main, and then the normal brace open and then close. Then the third brace is meant for delimiting the program or delimiting the set of the statements. Here we are starting the program, and this is a very simple program where there are no other delimiters over here. So it starts with one curly brace and ends with other curly brace. So whenever we talk about the control function and other things, looping constructs, then we can see there also we will use the curly brace and end of the curly brace, where in which we want to, whenever we want to mention the delimiting of the loop. So here, in order to limit the program, we are opening with the curly brace and we are ending with the curly brace. Then comes the declaration part. Here we are declaring the functions, we are declaring the arrays, structures, whatnot. Whatever that we use in the program, without the declaration, without the initialization of certain things, we should not use it in the program because it is a bad practice. So declarations needs to be done on at the start of the program, and then followed by the program statements, and then end the program. Whenever you have additional functions referred in the program, then you can write them down the main program. Those are called as the user-defined functions. These particular user-defined functions and other concepts we can see it in the next sessions. Let us talk about the primitive things in this session. So you can see here a simple program. Whenever we start writing the simple programming language, simple program in any language, we write the hello message. Like here I had started, like I had given a simple example, program to print a message. This is a comment. So it has been written in between the slash and star. So this can be considered as a comment in C programming. Then the preprocessor directive hash include stdio.h. So here the preprocessor directive we had added, and then the main function starts, curly brace open, this is the start of the program, printf, I am in the first semester of MCA. So this is a kind of statement, processing statement that we are given. After executing this, after compiling and executing this particular program, you will get the output as I am in the first semester of MCA. So this is a simple construct, simple program writing using C. So let us talk about the old examples. Two examples already we had seen at the time of designing the algorithm and then drawing the flowchart. That is the sum of two numbers. So this is the program. These particular things we can see what all we have. This is a sample format that we are given. Here we can identify the comments, the preprocessor directive, the keyword main, then start up the program, in between the declaration part. Int a comma b comma c sum. So these are the variables that we are using, and then these are been declared here, and then enter the values of a and b. Means we are prompting the user to give the a and b values in order to find the sum. So scanf those particular things into the program. Then sum is equal to a plus b. Printf the sum is percentage d. The quotes plus sum. So don't concentrate mostly on this particular program itself, because we have to learn first of all the constructs. This is a sample thing that I have given. Let us see the constructs. What exactly is int? What is printf? What is main? MAIN? Or other thing can we write instead of main? So all these things we will learn in the due course of time. So this is exactly to show you that how the C program looks like. So as I told you before, whenever start learning a new language or programming language, we try to learn what all that those are included in that particular language as the character set. Like whenever we are learning a language, we try to find out what are the alphabets. So in programming language, what are there as the character set, which constitutes the whole programming language. So what are the things that we can use? So here in C programming, we can use the uppercase letters from A to Z, the lowercase letters from A to Z, digits from combination of digits from 0 to 9, certain special characters we can use, because these particular set of special characters I had already provided you in the block. And other than those special characters, and those special characters are meant for certain things, certain functions, certain options. So those particular set of certain special characters are meant for using in the same way the kind of application of task that needs to be done. The special symbols you have, those are listed in your block. Please go through this. So these particular six things, we call it as the character set. Then comes the identifiers. Identifiers are the names that are given to the various program elements such as variables, functions, and arrays. So these are nothing but a kind of labels. Integer A is a label. Then A can be called as an identifier. That too a variable. So there are identifiers. We will be using it for the naming a function, for naming an array, naming a structure. So all these things, all these labels kind of thing, we call them as the identifiers. So these identifiers can be used or else can be defined by a user. It can be named by the user. Like A, there is no mandatory. Like instead of A, you take I is A and then comma sum. So these particular identifiers gives the user a chance to define the labels for variables, for functions, for array naming, for structure naming, for pointers naming, etc. So identifier consists of a mix of letters and digits. So there is no hard and fast that only using A to Z, capital or small letters only needs to be given. You can mix them with digits also. So one thing you have to remember that while naming a variable, it should not start with the digit. It should start with the alphabet. Both uppercase and lowercase are allowed in order to name the identifiers. No special symbols except the underscore is allowed. So in C programming, whenever you are writing the identifiers in order to name the variable, function, array, structures, you should not use other symbol except you can use a underscore. An identifier can also begin with an underscore. That is acceptable. but it should not start with the number. That is the digit. Then coming to the keywords. So for any programming language, there are set of reserved words. So here in the set of reserved words, we call them as the keywords. So their meaning is well defined with the programming language construct itself. Suppose if you take the case of when we are observing the two examples, MAIN is given. So that category instead of main, we can't use any other keyword. So in order to represent the main program, there we can't use instead of main any other identifier. So reserved words that have standard predefined meaning in C language. In any programming language, you take Java, C++, whatnot, for all the programming languages, there are well-defined keywords. First of all, we have to see the keywords. We have to find out what are the keywords in that particular programming language, and those keywords can't be used as the identifiers. Exactly the same keyword can't be used as the other identifiers in order to name the variable, in order to the array, in order to name the structure, etc. So these words have a definite meaning in that particular programming language. These are used for intended purposes only. These cannot be used as programmer find identifiers. Examples you can see. I have given you complete set of keywords in the form of a table in your MCS 011 block. For example, you take AUTO, break, case, switch, FO or for, DO, do, while, go to, struct, struct. All these things comes under the keywords. Next, you can see the basic types. When you take the example of the sum of two numbers, there we had seen a declaration part, where in which we had declared int a comma b comma c. That itself indicates that whenever we play with the variables in the program, in the C program, you have to first of all tell the type, whether it belongs to integer, whether it belongs to character, whether it holds the decimal numbers, whether it holds the double precision numbers. So though in order to identify those particular variables, we have to link them, or else we have to define them. Declare them, we have to declare them as an integer, a character for in order to represent a character, and float for taking the decimal numbers, and double for taking the double precision numbers. So associated with these particular data types, the type of elements is also there. You can see here integer, it occupies 2 bytes. One word you can see. Character, it occupies 1 byte. Float, it occupies 4 bytes. Double, it occupies 8 bytes. Suppose if int a is there, means you can say that identifier name is a, or else variable name is a, and it is declared as integer data type, and a occupies 2 bytes of data. Like suppose if I say float c comma d in one of the programs, what it identifies? It identifies that the c and d are declared as float variables, and c occupies 4 bytes and d occupies 4 bytes. And these throughout the program can be used as float only. So whenever you see the c variable, it carries a float value. D, it carries a float value. So these kinds of, in order to declare the variable, you have to declare it along with the data type. These 4 given data types are the basic data types of C programming. Then constants. So there are 4 types of constants. One is integer constant, floating point constants, character constant, string constants. So other than the data types that we have discussed, the data types are there. Other than that, whenever you want to have the constants, you have 4 constants also. Then let us come to the definition variables. So there you had seen int a. Is a variable, comma b is a variable, sum is a variable. So wherever you are using, we told that it is been declared as these three variables are declared as integer. Whenever we are looking into the program, wherever these variables are used, they are used as the integer variables. So what exactly is a variable? So it is an identifier that is used to represent some specified type of information within a designated portion of a program. It is used to represent a single data item, a numerical quantity, or a character constant. The data item must be assigned to the variable at some point of the program, and later it can be referred with the same name. So how to declare these variables? As I told you before, the identifier or else A, B, C, or else here you can see character flag is there. So for each and every variable, first of all, before start writing the program, you have to declare them, associate them with the data type. A declaration associate a group of variables with a specific data type. So suppose if you are having more than one variable used in the program with the same data type, they can be clubbed together. Like here you can see in one of the example, I have given A, B, C. So all these A, B, C are the variables of integer data type. So they can be combinedly used by putting a comma as the separator. And then the most important thing that you have to learn in C programming is every statement ends with the semicolon. So you can see here, after the declaration part is over of the for the variable, you have to put a semicolon. Nice int a comma b comma c, a delimiter is there. Character flag, once again a delimiter is there. Then comes the symbolic constants. Suppose if some symbolic constant needs to be used, like take the case of pi. Pi carries the value of 3.1415. Wherever you take the value of pi, it remains as a constant. So for that particular thing, 3.1415, you can declare it in the top of the program as a kind of a predefined kind of thing using hash symbol. Here you can see hash define RATE, that is the user given identifier, or wherever you find RATE in the program, throughout the program, it takes the value 0.2. So it substitutes this particular value with the RAT. Likewise, in the next example, wherever it finds the PI, then it substitutes with the value 3.145. In order to have these kinds of like substitutions kind of thing, there you can use the symbolic constants. Then statements. So what are the statements? The statement causes the computer to carry out some action. It may be an expression statement, it may be a compound statement, it may be a control statement, and all these kinds of statements we will see in the next class. Then coming to arithmetic operators, there are for each and every programming language we can use certain arithmetic operators in order to do the calculations or mathematical part. So in most of the programming languages, the meaning remains the same. Suppose if you use the plus operator, it indicates that it is meant for addition. Minus. For multiplication, we don't use x. Instead of that, we use the star. In most of the programming languages across, most of the programming languages take star as the multiplication symbol or else arithmetic operator for doing the multiplication in order to find the product. Likewise, the forward slash is meant for division. And here there is an additional symbol in C you can use, that is the mod operator. MOD, mod operator. Mod operator is nothing but if you do the division, it gives you quotient as the answer. Suppose if you use the mod function, it gives the remainder after the division. So what is the remainder that is there? In order to get that remainder wrapped, you have to use the mod function. So you are familiar with plus, minus, star for multiplication, the forward slash for division, and then the percentage symbol. We here use it for the mod function in order to capture the remainder after the division. So coming to the relational operators, you have the less than symbol, less than equal to, greater than equal to, uh, double equal to is meant for is equal to, and then in order to represent the not equal to, you have to use an exclamatory mark and then followed by an equal to. Here you can see less than, everybody knows, we have it on our keyboard, but in order to give the less than or equal to, mathematically we write a small line downwards the less than symbol. Here it is not there, so we have to use less than followed by is equal to. Likewise, for greater than also, we have to write greater than symbol, you have to key in greater than symbol and then followed by is equal to. Then for logical operations, and, or, and not, not everybody knows, in the previous slide also we had seen that for not you try to use the exclamatory mark, and for and two ampersand needs to be used, and for or two pipeline characters needs to be used. So these, if you use this double ampersand, it says you that it is an and logical operator, and two pipe characters means it tells you that you are using the or logical operator. And if you use the exclamatory mark, it is meant for the not logical operator. And here an assignment operator. Suppose if you want to assign some value also to the variable, like the initial value, int a is equal to 3, for example, like a is declared as an integer and it is being given some value at the start point itself. So a is equal to 3. So whenever we are trying to assign certain values to the variables, this operator needs to be used, like is equal to or single is equal to. If you are using double is equal to means there we are testing the condition. It should be associated with if or while. So there we will be using double is equal to. In order to assign, you have to write the identifier is equal to and then expression. Here you can see the examples: a is equal to 3, x equal to y, and then I is equal to j is equal to 1. Or else you can write I equal to 1, a delimiter, then j is equal to 1, a delimiter. Or else you can combine, because both of them we want to assign the same value. So I is equal to j is equal to 1 is also allowed. Then suppose you want to find the area of a rectangle, length into breadth. So area is equal to length into means star breadth and then a delimiter. So this particular operator is called as the assignment. A simple is equal to is called as an assignment operator. Conditional operator. So the syntax is as follows. A conditional operator is nothing but it will have two components with one condition and then expression 1 and expression 2. The conditional operator can be used as you test the condition followed by a question mark, then followed by an expression, colon, and then expression 2. Let us see an example here. X is equal to y less than 20. Question mark 9 colon 10. Here you have to understand. Let us forget for the time being x is equal to, keep it aside, y less than 20. Here we are checking the condition whether y is less than 20 or not. If yes, it takes the value, x takes the value 9. If it is not true, false, then it takes the value x equal to 10. So we are testing the condition. Yes means one value x takes, no means the other value will be assigned to x. Likewise, in the second example you can see printf grade less than or equal to 50. 50 is true. Greater than or equal to 50. If it is true, then pass. Otherwise, it is fail. So less than 50 comes under fail. So in these kinds of things, we can use the conditional operator. In the third case, a greater than b question mark printf, a is greater than b, otherwise b is greater than a. So these kind of combinational kind of thing, whenever you want to have a condition, if yes, some value, if no, some value, thing on the single statement, as a single statement, then we can use the conditional operator. So there are certain things called as C shorthand operators. So take for example, whenever you want to write A is equal to A plus 2. Here A is repeated after is equal to. A is equal to once again A plus 2. A is incremented by 2. So there shorthand we can write in C A plus is equal to 2. In order to avoid one simple variable there, you can use A plus equal to 2. So if you are not familiar, don't use such kind of things. Otherwise, A is equal to A star is there, or else we are finding the product. Then you have to use A star is equal to 2. And this kind of notation is called as the C shorthand notation. Here what you are doing, a variable operator is there, is equal to variable by constant of expression. Suppose if you are doing the multiple, and there you have to see the commonality also. A is equal to B plus 2, you can't write. If at all the same variable is repeating there, then only you have to write. Like y is equal to y by 7. There you can write y by equal to 7. So likewise, you can use the shorthand operators in C. Then coming to the precedence of operators. Like in mathematics, precedence plays a major role whenever we are solving the problems. So like BODMAS kind of thing, BODMAS, brackets of division, multiplication, addition, subtraction. This is the sequence we follow whenever we try to solve the arithmetic problems. So here also in C programming or else in any programming language, there needs to be followed certain kind of precedence of operators also. We can't solve just like that. You have to follow a kind of BODMAS kind of principle here also, along with some additional things like how to use the not, how to use the increment, decrement, where these precedences have, well, like the shorthand kind of operators, where you can find the precedence at the second level, third level. So those things also you have to see. Then comes these are the 4 units that we had studied during this particular 50 minutes session. So this particular C programming language is very important, and here in this session we had studied the basic concepts of the C programming language. In this particular thing we had before conclusion, let us recap what we had studied. We had started our discussion with the 3-step process, that is writing the algorithm, drawing the corresponding flowchart, and writing the program. And then in this particular programming language, we had seen the applications of C programming languages, where it is applied, and then categories we had seen, like higher language, lower language, and then what is called as a middle level language. And C stands as a middle level language. It solves both kind of problems, so it stands as a middle level language. Then we had seen the basic concepts of C programming language. Hope you understood the first 4 units of MCS 01, and then we will follow this particular 4 units with the next block in the next session. And before going signing off, tomorrow we have a session on computer organization. Sri Akshay Kumar will be taking you the session same at 11 a.m. on Facebook Live of IGNOU. So don't miss the class, because MCS 012, most of the students, they feel it difficulty. So please try to follow MCS 012 also. And then on Sunday you have for the 3rd semesters you have object oriented analysis and design class. That is taken by Sri MP Mishra. And then there are many mails that I am receiving regarding the assignment submissions. Assignment submissions, you can download it from our website. So most of them they had already done. And coming to the answer responses part, you please write the responses on any paper. There is no hard and fast that you have to write on a ruled paper or white paper. It should be A4 size. You write it, and then all the necessary guidelines regarding the assignments are given in your program guide. Once again, many of the students are asking about the guidelines in order to write the assignments. So the format is given in your the program guide. MCA format is given in MCA. Basically, the format is given for all our computer science programs. And then on the first paper, what are the things that you need to write, like the program code and other things, and scan those particular assignment responses into a single PDF format, and the rules and regulations given by the RCs you please follow. All the assignments needs to be submitted to particular RCs only. If the student is from RC Delhi 1, please send the assignment to RC Delhi 1, and please follow the websites of the regional centers. Each and every regional center has their websites, and continuous circulars and then the continuous guidelines are provided on the regional centers websites. Please try to follow those guidelines, and all the email addresses pertaining to that particular regional centers are also displayed on the regional centers. If you are unable to find, there are specific email addresses for each and every regional center, or else you can follow those particular things. So please try to follow those things. Guidelines, already I told you that those assignment solving, like formatting and other kinds of things, are already given in our program guides. Please try to follow those particular things. And coming to the examination date, it is been extended till 30th April. You please log on to our website, and then please try to fill up the subjects you want to appear for the examination. Assignment submission 30th April is the last date. And then for PhD students, like whoever intend to take the entrance test for PhD and Open Math, there is a link given over there, and it is been extended till 30th April. You please fill the application form in order to take the entrance test on or before 30th April. With this, I sign off. Thank you. Thanks for watching watching the session patiently. And there is an information to be shared. Please hold.
नमस्कार दोस्तों, मैं आपको एक छोटी सी इन्फॉर्मेशन नोट देना चाह रहा हूँ कि हमारे साइट पे ट्विटर पे और फेसबुक पे कुछ लोग गलत इन्फॉर्मेशन दे रहे हैं। तो मेरी रिक्वेस्ट है कि आप ऐसी इन्फॉर्मेशन से दूर रहें। जब तक यूनिवर्सिटी आपको कोई इन्फॉर्मेशन ना दे अपनी साइट पे और अपने ट्विटर अकाउंट पे और फेसबुक पे, तब तक किसी भी इन्फॉर्मेशन को आप वैलिड ना माने। अभी आज एक नई इन्फॉर्मेशन आई है कि यूनिवर्सिटी ने अपनी एग्जाम की डेट चेंज कर दी है। अभी ऐसे यूनिवर्सिटी ने कोई डिसीजन नहीं दिया है, और जैसे ही कोई डिसीजन होगा वैसे ही वेबसाइट पे आ जाएगा। तो प्लीज आप इस तरह की फेक न्यूज के से दूर ही रहें। यही मेरी आपसे रिक्वेस्ट है।
ऑफिशियल वेबसाइट, ऑफिशियल फेसबुक अकाउंट, ऑफिशियल ट्विटर अकाउंट, इसी को फॉलो करने के लिए कर लीजिए। फिर दोबारा मैं एक बार फिर याद दिलाता हूँ कि फेसबुक इग्नो सोर्सेस का भी एक फेसबुक अकाउंट है। मोस्ट ऑफ द स्टूडेंट्स आर अनअवेयर, आई डोंट नो व्हाई वी प्लीज whoever are friends with other peer group, please try to share the official accounts। इग्नो का जितना भी ऑफिशियल लैंग्वेज, जैसे कि कुछ लोग फॉलो कर रहे हैं हमारा सेशंस, और कुछ लोग अभी भी क्वेश्चन कर रहे हैं कि हमारा एकेडमिक काउंसलिंग नहीं हुआ है। Already it will started, and several sessions are happening on our official websites through FB Live में हो रहा है, और local academic councils also helping taking voluntarily the sessions there using Zoom and other video conferencing. Please try to follow. Please be in touch with our regional centers. They are there to help you in these needy hours. Thank you very much, Rajesh ji. Thank you very much for conducting the session very smoothly. Thanks a lot. Stay tuned.
ओके।